What is up, YouTube? That's here, bringing you guys a brand new Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee video. Today, I'm going to be talking about the best natures for every single Pokemon in the Pokedex. You guys know I answer every single one of my comments on YouTube, on the Discord especially. I answer probably 10 or 15, up to 100 little questions a day. Hey, what is the best nature for X Pokemon? And you guys know that I always say, there really is no best nature for most Pokemon. It's all relative to, what team it's in, what Pokemon it's supposed to be fighting against, what damage it's supposed to mitigate, what the role of the Pokemon is. Really does depend on what its best nature could be. But I wanted to make a video and talk about the best natures in my personal order for every single Pokemon, like certain Pokemon, for example, like Primeape. I feel Primeape kind of has to be jolly because it's 95 base speed. It needs to be able to outspeed everything slower than that for its moveset to actually work. So there's like certain Pokemon, for example, that have to be certain natures, like Beedrill's another one. Beedrill kind of has to be jolly, so in its Mega form, it can outspeed Mega Mewtwo. So that's like a perfect example of a Pokemon that has like one preferred nature, but most Pokemon have like 5 or 6 best natures, and so I'm going to do my best to rank them in order. This is probably going to be a pretty long video where I go through everything, and I just wanted to say before we get into the video, guys, please let me know. You can see there's something like right under me. It says, what did you think of the video? Leave a comment and let me know what you think one thing I could be doing better is for the channel. One thing you think I could be doing better in this video, in the channel, in my highlights, like other videos you want to see me do, different topics. One thing, just one thing. Maybe you don't like the audio quality. Maybe you don't like my thumbnails. It could be literally anything. And if everyone takes the time to leave a comment and let me know one thing that I could work on and fix to make the content better suited for you viewers, I'm sure we could actually make the channel into something so much better, and in doing so, we'll be able to help so many more people learn Pokemon, and that's the real win here. Like, we'll be able to help so many more people be able to grow our community. Remember, the Discord, completely free to join. There's gonna be links to the Discord in the comments below. If you guys have any questions or want to join our wonderful community, there's a link to the Discord in the comments below. But I have lollygagged on long enough. Let's get into the meat of this video. Holy moly, I cannot believe I'm doing this. I was typing this out because actually a lot of people wanted to trade me Pokemon, right? They wanted to trade me. They're like, I want to use Mr. Mime. I can trade you one whenever. And I was like, man, there's like a list of like 50 Pokemon that these people want to trade me. And again, I will take any Pokemon off this list with like 5+ IVs preferably. But yeah, I was like, man, there's so many Pokemon that people want to trade me. How do I let them know what natures I want? And I was like, wait, I was typing it out. And I was like halfway through and I was like, wait, I should just make a video saying what the best nature is for every Pokemon to help so many people. So here we go. We are going to start this off going into the Pokedex because, we're in the Pokemon lab in Pallet Town. What better place? And yeah, this is the Pokedex, right? So like, can we sort it by final evolutions? I could sort it by heaviest. That's kind of funny. No, we're just going to start at the beginning. So I'm going to be calling each of their evolutions just lines. So obviously, this is the Venusaur line. Obviously, this is the Charizard line. I'm going to be calling each of these things by their fully evolved forms. You guys can totally use Venusaurs, totally use Charmeleons, totally use Wartortles. I got no problem with that. And we're actually going to be touching the Masterclass up back in a little bit. But we're going to start things off. So, the Venusaur line. I'm going to do a brief little review of what each Pokemon's main role is. Venusaur is like a special attacker who excels on the defensive edge. So, Venusaur is going to be kind of like a special attacker that has really bulky defenses. So, for a special attacker like this, you want something that preferably benefits special attacks. You want something that doesn't lower its special attack. I would say the best natures for Venusaur in this order, and all of these things are going to be in the order of most importance. Like, you can leave comments on the video and saying, I have this nature for Venusaur. Is it good? I'm going to list you them all in order of their best natures. So the best nature for Venusaur, I would probably say, is probably a calm nature. Probably calm nature. I would say calm, modest, bold, and then hasty. We're going to put hasty on there. Well, actually, let me think about this. Calm, modest, bold. I like hasty. Yep, hasty. That's it. Hasty. That's 4. Yep, I was right the first time. Calm, modest, bold, hasty. Slight little 5th slot for timid there. But reason being, it's made to wall attacks. It's a special attacker. And the reason we're using Hasty over Jolly or Timid is because I've seen a lot of people splash Earthquake on this thing, and Earthquake does really do a ton of damage against like Alolan Mucks and stuff like that. It does a lot of damage against Electrodes, Jolteons, partner Pikachus, Raichus. That's a lot of damage, and people don't really expect it. So only for the Earthquake will you go like that Hasty set. But yeah, Calm, Modest, those are great nature for this guy. Perfect. Up next, going to be the Charizard line. And I know I'm not going to be as in-depth about all these. Venusaur is just a little bit of a mixed bag of sorts. So Charizard, next Pokemon. I would say the best nature on Charizard is probably a Hasty nature, actually. And you may be wondering, why is there a Hasty nature? There's going to be links in the description to a bunch of team building videos where I break down a bunch of these Pokemon, most likely. And I talk about Hasty nature on Charizard in particular is because Charizard is a base 100 speed Pokemon, so you need a plus speed nature. So that is something like Hasty, Naive, Jolly, or Timid. And the reason we're going Hasty over Naive is because, remember, Charizard can be a mixed attacker. So you don't really want to go like Jolly or Timid, so it means Hasty and Naive are your only options. And again, I think Charizard, remember, he's most likely going to be going into Charizard X form. Charizard X is a Dragon Fire, who is, of course, really weak to like rocks and earthquake damage. You're going to get KO'd from those things anyways, so I could care less how weak I am to physical attacks. Also note that special attacks are more common in the format. Most Pokemon in this format are special attackers. Psychic's like the best type. It's a special attack. There's a lot of water Pokemon. There's a lot of like grass Pokemon, electric Pokemon. You get the idea. Special attacks are more important, and when you go to Charizard X, you actually gain Dragon typing. So Dragon and Fire, you're going to have a ton of resistances on the special side, and so you want to have as much special defense as possible. So that's why I really recommend Hasty, because even if you were getting hit with like a Rock Slide or an Earthquake in Charizard X mode, you would probably get KO'd anyways. So Hasty's the best nature on Charizard X in my opinion, or just Charizard in general. If you guys have any questions about that or want to dispute it, leave a comment in the comments below and we'll start talking about it. Up next is Blastoise, another Pokemon that can go Mega. Personally, I feel that Modest is just the best nature for this guy. He's just bulky enough, but if you want to go into other natures, you can go like Modest, Bold, Calm, and then last but not least, Timid. He has a pretty decent speed base, but not something super stellar. So I would say if you have to pick any nature, you would pick Modest, but you know, Calm, Bold, Timid, those are all great options. Up next, it's going to be Butterfree. Finally, we get to a Pokemon that you just have one nature, and that's your only choice if you want to use this Pokemon competitively to its fullest potential. You got to be Timid. This thing, it sets up sleep powders, has quiver dances. This Pokemon needs to be as fast as possible. You're going to be able to actually outspeed a bunch of base 130 Pokemon if they don't have their plus speed nature if you're Timid. So with a +2 from quiver dance, you can actually outspeed things like, you know, Mega Gengar, Aerodactyl, Mewtwo, stuff like that if they do not have a plus speed nature. And the thing is, if you're not plus speed nature yourself, you can't even risk that roll at all. So it's totally worth it. Gotta be Timid on this thing. Up next, another Pokemon, Butterfree's counterpart, Beedrill. Another Pokemon that has to be a certain nature. You gotta be Jolly on this thing. You gotta be Jolly. I'm pretty sure it goes up to 140. Is it 140? I'm gonna check it. I'm gonna Google it. Beedrill, here we go. Beedrill. I think it's 140 on the Mega. Could be 145. So 145, that's why we Google it. So yeah, if you want to be faster than things like Mega Alakazam and Mega Mewtwo, are even faster than Mega Alakazam? I'm getting all of my calcs off today. It's been a couple days. Yeah, so if you want to be faster than Mega Mewtwo, Mega Gengar, and a bunch of those things, and regular like Aerodactyl forms, you gotta be Jolly. You gotta be Jolly. So Jolly's gonna get you 145 base speed. That's a pretty decent number. A lot of things like cap out at like 140, and so 145 sets you apart from them. So after that, we're gonna be going on to Pidgeot, however you want to pronounce that. I really think that this thing can have a couple decent natures. You saw in my team building video with Mega Pidgeot, I used an adamant one, but that was completely a joke. The best nature for this Pokemon is actually going to be Timid, because Pidgeot is more often than not a special attacker, and so you want the speed because obviously I've said it before, you're going to see through the list, speed's the most important stat in the game. If you're not first, you're last, and that doesn't mean that you just make every Pokemon speed natured. It's only if they have like a higher than 90 base speed is if you want to make them speed natured. So because if you don't, you'll be outsped by the fact that everything else above 90 speed is speed natured. Do you understand the little power creep there? So anyways, yeah, Pidgeot is going to have to be Timid. It uses moves like Air Slash, Heat Wave, and, you know, those, again, are special attacks, and Timid raises your speed but lowers your attack. So, again, gotta be Timid, kind of, in my opinion. Up next, we have Raticate, and for some reason, it's not showing the Alolan forms on the Pokedex, but, like, whatever. Regular Eradicate is base 97 speed. So you actually, again, by the deduction here, like I said with Pidgeot, you gotta be speed natured. Has to be jolly for this one. If you want to use adamant, it's okay, but you're not gonna get the same amount of bang for your buck as you'd be if you were jolly. And I guess for the Alolan Eradicate form, since the Alolan Eradicate form isn't as fast, you can get away with going adamant. And I think adamant is by far the best nature for Alolan Eradicate. If you want to use that like huge crunch damage, huge double edge damage, I highly recommend it. After that, we got Fearow. Fearow is a base 100 speed Pokemon. Base 100 is pretty much the benchmark threshold for if something is fast or not fast. And again, like common base 100 speed Pokemon on this list so far, like Charizard is base 100. We haven't really seen it yet, but like Zapdos is base 100. Ninetales is base 100. There's so many base 100 speed Pokemon, and Fearow is one of them. So if you want to be able to keep up with those things competitively, you have to be jolly nature. And remember, Fearow is a physical Pokemon, so jolly is a perfect nature for that. After this, we have Arbok, who I think has like an 80 base speed, so again, it's not super fast. So with Arbok, you actually want to play a little bit more defensive. You're going to be wanting to go an adamant nature on this because, again, it's another physical attacker. But you can also get away with going things like Careful, so adamant, Careful, and then Impish. Impish is going to lower your... Impish is going to raise your defense, and I think that there might be a couple calcs in there where you can live Earthquakes through some things. If you're Impish, someone might want to look into it, but I would highly recommend Adamant, and if you can't get Adamant, then maybe something like Careful or Impish would totally work. Pikachu, we're going to talk about the Partner Pikachu first. I've had a lot of people question me about Partner Pikachu and what natures to put on this thing. I actually think Partner Pikachu is best nature Hasty. It's very similar to the way you build Charizard. Again, special attackers are more common, and if you get hit with like an Earthquake, you're going to get KO'd anyways. It doesn't matter what your defense is. And Pikachu is another mixed attacker. It can use things like Zippy Zap, which is physical, and things like Thunderbolt and stuff like that that are special. So again, you want to go speed nature. This thing has a base 120 speed, so you'll be able to maximize that, and Hasty's perfect. Raichu, on the other hand, and Alolan Raichu, for example, are almost exactly the same. You need to be timid on both of these things. They're base 110 speed, and you need to maintain that 110 base speed because, again, that lets you outclass all the base 100s, and then 110 is like the next speed tier creeping up. So popular base 110s are like Raichu, Tauros, Gengar. A lot of those Pokemon, you want to not automatically lose to them, so you have to just go 110 to tie them. After that is Sandslash, and then respectively Alolan Sandslash. I think these Pokemon probably benefit the most from being something like Impish, maybe Careful, and Adamant. I would rank all three of those the same, and, you know, depending on what you're trying to wall/KO, you use them respectively. I think Impish is really good on Alolan Sandslash, because you have weaknesses to, like, well, to Earthquake and, like, Fighting Attack. So maybe you might need the Impish on the Alolan Sandslash, but there's nothing wrong with doing Impish on regular Sandslash either. And again, Careful is always good nature for raising your special defense, and Adamant, just in case there's certain matchups in which you might need just a little bit more damage. But you're not ever going to really need Jolly on this thing, because it is rather slow. After that, we got Nidoqueen. Now, Nidoqueen can do a few things. Nidoqueen, a lot of people like Super Fang on it to deal damage. Remember, that does half automatically, but it's a 90 base accuracy, so that's why I don't like it. But most people use this thing as like a wall Stealth Rock user, right? And so I would probably say the best nature for Nidoqueen. You could say Careful, right? But I actually think the best nature for this thing is probably going to be Impish. Because again, this thing has like that big weakness to Earthquake. And I don't want to just die to Earthquake by most things. So I would say Impish, Careful, and then Adamant, maybe. I don't think you need Jolly on this thing at all. It's not super fast. And I don't really think there's that many scenarios in which you would even want Adamant to KO things. Like, more often than not, you're going to put, like, rocks. You're going to put, like, a lot of people like Earthquake on it and stuff like that. Some people like Dragon Tail and stuff like that. So, Nidoqueen is okay, I think. And I think Nidoqueen is okay, but it also has the option to be a special attacker. So, like, if you really wanted to, this thing could be, like, it could be, like, Impish, Careful, Adamant, but it could also be, like, Bold, Calm, Modest. This Pokemon can do pretty much everything, gets a great TM base. Most natures on this Pokemon are going to be great as long as you stick with something I just said right there. Nidoking, on the other hand, is a lot more polarized. It's a lot faster, so we can actually do a couple more things even though they have a very similar move pool. Its stats are more optimized for offense, and in doing so it has a lot more speed. So because it has more speed, you're going to want to go Jolly, Naive, or Timid on this thing. And the reason why I even recommend those three is because with Nidoking, sure, you can be a mixed attacker. You can be physical and go like Earthquake, and like Ice Punch and stuff like that. But you can also be like special and go like Sludge Bomb Stab and get like Ice Beam, Flamethrower, Thunderbolt, and etc. So Nidoking is going to be really, really good, but you need to have a plus speed nature. So again, you're going to want to go naive on this thing, because again, EQ will just KO you anyways. You might as well play into that and try to block out something that you might resist, like being able, if like let's say for example, did I say naive? I meant hasty. So sorry. I meant hasty. If you were naive, for example, though, you might get like one-shotted by like a big stab Mega Drain by something, because remember, it's gonna be neutral, and if you come in, take a little bit of rocks damage, or you're hanging out around like 80%, you might actually just get KO'd because your special D is so low. You need to maximize every single one of your special D stats, so hasty is really good on this thing in my opinion. Up next, we have Clefable. This Pokemon's somewhat like a physical wall. It gets Stealth Rocks, gets like Minimize, Amnesia, Calm Mind, so many good setup moves. One of the best typings in the game in Fairy as well. I think the best nature for this thing, I think it's actually Bold. I would say Bold, Calm, and like that's it. You don't want Modest on this thing. And the reason why I say Bold first is because more often than not, a lot of people like to lead with this Pokemon. And like I said, it's a great Rocks user. It has a bunch of setup potential. And one of the best setup moves it has is like Amnesia or like Calm Mind. Those boost your special defense, which means you want to be able to maximize your defense as much as you can before bringing in other boosting moves. And like I said, it's a lead. Let's think of what are commonly leads. Other common leads are Stealth Rock users. Things that learn Stealth Rocks are more commonly physical attackers. So in that scenario, I think Bold is probably the best nature for this. It's going to raise your defense, lower your attack. Doesn't affect any of your attacks because all your attacks are special attacks, so it's absolutely perfect for Clefable. After that, it's weird. You see, like, I have, like, a Alola Ninetales here, but I guess it doesn't show me regular Ninetales. I guess it means because I got a Alola Ninetales first. For the Ninetales line, you want the same nature on both of them. They want to be timid because regular Ninetales is base 100, which, again, speed ties all the other things like Charizard, like Fearow, like Zapdos, and stuff like that. But Alola Ninetales, you still want to be timid, but Alola Ninetales is base 109. So it's not going to be able to outspeed things like Raichu and Gengar, but it's going to be able to outspeed things that are 100 and base 105s. So really, really good. If you want to make a team that, like, wants to get away with it, like, wants to be greedy, I guess the greedy option is to go Modest, because these things do not have that much special attack at all, and more often than not, this is one of the Pokemon, especially the Alola Ninetales, is where your opponent's going to expect you to be timid, so they're not just going to throw something out that will automatically die to it. Like, if your opponent has like a 50% health Zapdos, they're not just going to try and fight your Alola Ninetales, because they're going to know that they can just eat an Ice Beam. You have 9 base speed on them, and they have to assume you're timid. They're going to respect you're timid. They're either going to switch or play defensively. And so in that type of scenario, they're not going to force you to show the fact that you're timid more often than not until they absolutely have to. And so this is one of the few times you can actually get away with going Modest, because it actually does give you a huge boost because their special attack stats are so low. So I'm going to say timid first, but with the option of being Modest if you want to play greedy. So we're moving on, and that works for both forms, by the way. Totally works for both forms. It's just because their special attack is so low that I do recommend the potential to play greedy there sometimes. We're going to mention that as we get further on down the list. There's a few Pokemon I play greedy with, and you guys are going to see them. You guys have probably seen my videos. You're like, wait, that thing wasn't timid? I had no idea. You've played with it since the day the game came out, and it worked wonders. So it's great choices sometimes. Like, I've used Modest once. I've used them. They're good. Like, the Ninetales that I've used in my videos actually is Calm, and it works fine. Anyways, so Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff, I actually think Wigglytuff should be Modest. I think Wigglytuff should be Modest, and then Bold, and then Calm. Modest because it has a huge special attack pool, and you want to be able to deal, oh, my computer almost shut off. You want to be able to, like, two-shot most things with a super effective move. So let's just think of some examples. Like, let's say you have, like, a Zapdos and I have Wigglytuff. I need to be Modest to, like, two-hit KO you with Ice Beam. If you have a Venusaur and I have a Wigglytuff, goodness forbid, like, I can try and fight you because you can just Sludge Bomb me, but, you know, for example, I need to be able to two-shot you with Flamethrower, right? And to do that on some of these really bulky Pokemon, you need to be Modest. So, again, like another example, like Poliwrath, if I want to use Psychic or Thunderbolt, and Wigglytuff gets all these moves, you guys have seen me talk about it in my top 5 videos, to be able to two-shot things, you need to be Modest, and, again, it has pretty decent stats all around, so Wigglytuff, pretty good Pokemon. We talking about Golbat now. I made a video about Golbat a couple days ago. Golbat actually has a base 95 speed, so you actually, again, need to be Jolly. It's very similar to some other Pokemon that I've mentioned, in which to outspeed things that aren't speed-natured in this whole near 100 base speed world, you need to be able to be jolly to just keep up with them and have the potential to outspeed and force them to have the correct nature. So another good example is, like, let's say you were using regular Ninetales or, you know, like Alola Ninetales, and you were modest. You know, I'm not going to fight you with my Golbat because I know you're supposed to outspeed me. But if I had to fight you, and I was jolly and you were modest, I would outspeed you. So, like, it almost forces the players that have the higher base speeds it keeps them honest by the fact that you're going speed nature in an attempt to, you know, gain the upper hand. So, again, you gotta kind of go jolly. It's the game that we play. If you don't want to go jolly, you want to play a complete wall Golbat, which, again, you're still doing that by playing jolly. Like, you're still playing, like, Roost, Taunt, Toxic, stuff like that. You could go, Impish, or you could go Careful, but I don't recommend it. If there was like an Eevee light in the game and there were other factors involved, maybe, but 95 base speed, you kind of want to play into that and be able to go for one of the fastest taunts on one of the bulkier Pokemon in the game. So really think Golbat's a pretty good Pokemon, just got to keep it be jolly. After that, we have Vileplume. Vileplume doesn't have Chlorophyll anymore. There's no abilities in this game, so there's no reason for it to ever need to go like Timid or anything like that, and it's not that bulky, so Vileplume's another one of those Pokemon that the best nature for this thing is just modest. So there you go. Have fun, Vileplume. Easier said than done, right? Modest. It gets Moonblast, Petal Dance, a bunch of really cool grass attacks and stuff like that. Sludge Bomb stabs that Sludge Bomb. Modest is a great nature for this thing. And now finally to one of the reasons why I made the list. Do you know how many times a day I have to answer the question, hey THATSA, what nature is your Parasect? I have to answer that question so many times a day. I almost think people are trolling me at this point. I know a few of them are. But yeah, I think Sassy nature is actually really good on Parasect. And it's also pretty decent on things like Venusaur, anything that uses Sleep Powder inducing moves, because you want to be able to go last, set up your Sleep Powder, and make it so they don't even start their being awake turns. Because remember, the first turn you get put to sleep, you have to be asleep. So if I go last and I use Sleep Powder on you, I'm free to do whatever I want. I can set up a sub, I can set up a Leech Seed, I can hard switch into something that counters you, and you can't wake up. And it's completely different from if I use Sleep Powder or something fast, and then you were asleep that turn, and then I switch. Well, you can wake up on my switch. If I do it with Parasect, though, you actually cannot wake up, and it's a complete free switch, which is something that's, like, really, really underrated in this meta right now. So Sassy is the best thing for this one, but if you can't get Sassy, you're going to want to go, like, Careful nature, because, again, you need that special D-boost to play this Pokemon correctly, and it is a physical attacker. As much as you probably don't think it is, it's a physical attacker, which Leech Life, and it stabs the Leech Life, 80 base power, off its relatively high base attack stats. So, pretty good. And if you really have to go Impish for some weird reason, you can, but Sassy's just the nature to go with this thing. Venomoth, another Pokemon that has to have a very specific nature. It's actually going to be Timid, and you have to go Timid, and that is the end of that. This thing has a 70 base speed, which means you want to be able to outspeed things at the end of, like, when... Actually, it's not 70. Give me 1 sec. It's not. Butterfree was 70. Venomoth is higher. Right? It's 90, that's what it was. I was like, wait, it's not 70. Butterfree was 70, and that's why you had to, be Timid. Venomoth is 90, right? Venomoth is 90 base speed. So to outspeed things, remember, the way speed boosts work, you get like a 1.5 boost if you use something like Quiver Dance, for example. So it's actually gonna let you outspeed, like, everything that's like 130 base. You wanna outspeed Mewtwo's, Aerodactyls, Mega Gengars? Well, Venomoth can do that if you're Timid nature, so gotta go Timid for that one. After that, we have Dugtrio and Alolan Dugtrio. The only difference between Alolan Dugtrio and regular Dugtrio are two things. The only difference is Alolan Dugtrio has 10 more base defense and 10 less base speed. So, like, Kanto Dugtrio is faster and frailer, but Alolan Dugtrio has, like, Steel type and is just a little bit slower, going down from 120 to 110 and gains like 10 more base defense. Doesn't really matter. And also that, you know, Alolan Dugtrio can learn Flash Cannon. But remember, this thing's like a physical attacker, physical sweeper, setup mon. Great lead. You gotta go Jolly. Has to be. Keeps up with their speed. Base 110, again, very common number. Ties like Gengars and a bunch of the other things I mentioned earlier, like Raichus and stuff. You always want to be able to, like, you're the king of that speed tier. Like, they're afraid of you. Like, if you're talking about Gengar, Raichu, and Dugtrio, what Pokemon is going to be, like, the one that needs to go first there? The Dugtrio is probably the best bet. So we're moving on to Persian and Alolan Persian. And this Pokemon can actually have a complete mix-up based off if you're using Kanto Persian or Alolan Persian. So if you're using Kanto Persian, I'd say the best natures for this one are probably going to be Jolly and then Timid. And you may be thinking that's really weird. Why wouldn't you just go like Naive or something like that? It's because they have completely different move sets. Because you can play this Pokemon two completely different ways. You can play it as like a physical Pokemon where you have like Fake Outs. You know, you can play it like with other physical moves and stuff like that. It gets a bunch of physical moves like U-turn and stuff like that. You'd be a physical Persian. The second one, like I said for the Timid one, you make it special. You have like Taunt, Nasty Plot, Thunderbolt, other special attacks like that. Persian has a pretty decent special pool, and so I would say for regular Persian, you want to go Jolly and then Timid. But on Alolan Persian, you want to go Timid and then Jolly. And the reason for the big mix-up is Alolan Persian has a better special attack move pool, being able to stab Dark Pulse, and also because it gains Dark typing and loses normal typing, you don't stab Fake Out anymore, making like the physical set that would use Fake Out in the first place. I mean, they're both going to use Fake Out, but the physical sets for Alolan Persian doesn't stab the Fake Out, so it's just not as good. It becomes the second best stat on that one. So again, Kanto, Jolly, Timid, Alolan, Timid, Jolly. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll be able to elaborate on it a little bit more. So after that, we got Golduck, my guy Golduck. Golduck's base 85, and so it's not like super fast. You can totally go Timid if you want, but I'm pretty sure it only has like, what is its base? Is it a 90? It's a 95 base special attack. You might as well just go Modest with this thing if you're ever going to do anything with it. So Modest Golduck is probably my option. I mean, that was the way we've played it in VGC for years, and I have absolutely no problem with this thing. Picks up the KOs, but you gotta be Modest. Finally down to Primeape, base 95 Pokemon, and you gotta go Jolly on this thing. You guys have seen me use Primeape a bunch before, gets U-turn, Taunt, a bunch of moves that really promote going first, and because it has 95 base speed, it can barely keep up with a lot of these Pokemon, and so you kind of have to go Jolly. If you want to go Adamant, you're really risking it, and it's not even like playing greedy. I feel that that's a little bit of a throw, because like you're gonna be losing to things that are like 80 base speed, that are like 85 base speed that are speed natured, and you can't be having that. It's like the worst feeling in the world when like a Venusaur outspeeds you. You're so sad. Arcanine. Arcanine's a really weird Pokemon. I'm going to talk about the general Arcanine set. The general Arcanine set is going to want to be Adamant. Most people like to play this Pokemon physical. It gets things like Flare Blitz, Play Rough, Crunch, Superpower, Outrage. Most people are going to play this thing physical, so like Adamant and Jolly are like the best sets for Arcanine, most people would say. All these Pokemon, I'm generally saying what I think the most common sets are. You know, you guys have seen me talk about, you know, my take on like Parasect, for example. Like, you know, I like Sassy, but I mentioned the other sets as well. But yeah, Arcanine's more often than not going to be played with that Adamant Jolly set. It's a base 95 Pokemon, so it's not super slow, but it's pretty weak if you don't go Adamant, and like it's one of the few exceptions that where even though you have like a base 95 speed, you don't really have to go into that plus speed nature because you get such a boost to your attack in being Adamant over Jolly, and you're bulky enough to eat any attack because Arcanine's like really thick. Other options though are Bold. I actually think Bold is my personal favorite for Arcanine. Make it a little bit of a special attacker. I'm going to show you guys a team in a couple days that uses Teleport, gets Will-O-Wisp. This Pokemon's a really cool like special physical like wall moveset with like Rest and other cool stuff like that. So I actually think there's arguments to be made for like Bold, Impish, all the really cool defensive natures on Arcanine as well. This Pokemon, you can almost have any nature in the game as long as it's not a neutral nature. And even if it was a neutral nature, it wouldn't even be bad. Arcanine is that good. Almost every single nature works on it. So really, really good Pokemon. We're talking about Poliwrath next. My boy Poliwrath. I've ran an Adamant Poliwrath for a long time. Great Pokemon, but I've also recently started to see a lot of people using Impish Poliwrath as like a complete check to like Aerodactyl leads, and I love it. I think Adamant Poliwrath is really, really good. Impish also has a great spot in the game, so either of those natures totally works, and if Poliwrath were to somehow become something that was so popular that everyone started running Poliwrath and you wanted the advantages in the Poliwrath mirror match, you could run a Jolly one if you want. So that's my decision here. We're going to be talking about Alakazam now. Alakazam, pretty decent Pokemon. More often than not, Mega Alakazam is really good, and Mega Alakazam's base 150. So Mega Alakazam, again, you gotta be timid. You can try and get away with Modest, but that's only gonna take you so much. It's not even greed, that's just negligence at that point. Because at the very end of the day, they're gonna have to fight you if this is their last Pokemon. And if like the whole time, like, you know, you're sweeping them, they're like, man, I don't want to fight that Alakazam with my Beedrill. Eventually, they're gonna have to. And, you know, depending on how good they are, they might do it sooner than later and, like, force you to reveal, or they'll be able to see through, like, a damage calc mid-game, like you doing a little bit more than you should, that you're modest. And so you just got to go timid. You got to bite the bullet. There's a couple KOs you lose by being timid versus modest, but you got to bite the bullet. You got to be timid. You can always use Calm Mind to boost your stats even more, and timid is the best and only nature for this thing as far as I'm concerned. Machamp, really decent Pokemon, a great attack stat, pretty good special defense stat, pretty low defense stat. So I would actually, the best nature on this thing is probably going to be Adamant and then Careful. You don't really need Impish, probably just stick with Adamant. It's strong, you want to be strong. That's the best nature for Machamp. After this, we got Victory Bell. Victory Bell's kind of similar to a bunch of other Pokemon. It has a 70 base speed, so you don't really need Jolly. It also gets a priority move in Sucker Punch. So again, another reason that you don't really need the speed. So I really do think that Adamant is the best nature for this thing. Gotta go Adamant, use your Swords Dances. You're gonna be able to explode anything with like a Power Whip that you want, and then it's also gonna give you a huge boost to your Sucker Punches against things like Alakazams, Mewtwo's, Mews, and you know, anything that's really weak against Sucker Punch. Great Pokemon, highly underrated. We're gonna see a lot of it in the future. So, Tentacruel is going to be talking about here. Tentacruel can do a few things. It can actually be physical with, like, Waterfall and Poison Jab, or it can be special with, like, you know, Hydro Pump, Scald, Sludge Bombs. There's one other move that's, like, really, really good that I'm not thinking about. Ice Beam. That's what it is. On Tentacruel, you still need room for Ice Beam, so you can, like, KO a couple really clutch things. But, yeah, more often than not, this Pokemon's actually pretty fast. I'm pretty sure it's base 100. So I would probably go Timid. I'd probably go Timid, and I'd probably make it special. But if you wanted to go physical, again, you could go Jolly. I think the special set is just a little bit better, in my opinion. This Pokemon is a huge base special D. If you wanted to go, like, Careful or Calm, you totally could. But, again, I think you'd benefit more from going first with this Pokemon. I would love to use one of these things. If I had a competitive set for one, I should probably go Chain for them. It's really good. We're going to be talking about Golem and Alolan Golem. Both of them have the exact same set. I think Adamant nature is the best one for this thing. Who cares about defense? Who cares about special defense? Gotta hit hard, and that's about it. Gotta hit hard. Rock Slides, Earthquakes, Thunder Punches from Alolan Golem. Adamant is the nature to go for this thing. I highly recommend it, and you don't really get anything for going Careful or Impish for this thing. Anything worth noting. So we're going to talk about Rapidash. Rapidash is base 105 speed, so it's actually going to be able to outspeed all those base 100s. So to continue to outspeed those base 100s, you're going to want to go Jolly nature, in my opinion. And if you're a physical attacker using the same set you've seen me talk about in my top 5 fire video, so using like the Flare Blitz, Drill Run, Mega Horn set, you're going to want to go Jolly. But if you wanted to be special for some weird reason, like that's just the one you have, maybe you caught like a special attacker one, you know, I'd highly recommend Timid. So Jolly and then Timid. There's no reason to be like naive and be like a mixed attacker. Not on this Pokemon. It doesn't really benefit from it, but I'd highly recommend the physical set because it is extremely good and it's pretty fast. After that, we got my boy Slowbro. Slowbro's a bit of an enigma because again, it's very similar to Clefable. It can boost its own defenses and it can boost its own special defenses with like Calm Minds and Amnesias, and that's preferably how I like to play it. It can also go Mega. And so, when you go Mega, you also gain a lot more defense. I actually think the best nature for this thing is Bold. And so, you're going to be able to want to increase your defense as much as possible, and then rely on moves like Calm Mind or Amnesia to boost your special defense. So, a lot of people would say that Calm is probably best for this because you have such a low special D. But if you just play it correctly and get a special D boost, then technically, your special defense is higher than your defense after just one turn of boosts. I've also seen people use Modest. The one that I use in my videos is Modest. But you also seen the one I use in my videos is like susceptible to getting KO'd before it can set up. So I'd highly recommend Bold, then Calm, and then Modest on this thing if those are your options. We're going to be talking about Magneton next, and I actually have a really niche Magneton nature. More often than not, more people are going to go Modest on this thing, but I'm going to tell you a better Magneton nature. It's actually Calm. Calm nature is the best nature on Magneton, and the reason we're going Calm over something like Modest is because Magneton is a steel type. It's a steel electric, which means it only has weaknesses to like a couple types. It has weaknesses to like ground, fighting, and fire, but other than that, you resist like so many things with that typing. And the thing is, a lot of those things you resist, like you know, like dark and psychic and grass and electric, and those are all special attacking types, and so you want to be able to minimize that damage as much as possible, increasing your special D base. Also, Magneton has a relatively high base special attack, but it's not so high in which you're just one-shotting things like crazy. You're gonna be able to two-shot most things, and so even if you're not Modest, you're still gonna have that same two-hit KO threshold on almost all the Pokemon you normally would. Like even Pokemon like an Alakazam. Let's say you have a Magneton versus Alakazam. you're going to be able to two-shot with Thunderbolt regardless of if you're modest or not. So you actually do not need the modest for that specific matchup, and that's just a general example. If I were to rank my Magneton natures, I would actually say Calm, Timid, Modest, and then I guess Bold if you have to. But again, this thing's a Pokemon's a special attacker, and I really think you benefit from Calm. All the Magnetons you've seen me use in my videos are Calm, and I've got some pretty sick Magneton games up on this YouTube channel, if I do say so myself. Pretty good Pokemon. Farfetch'd. I've never seen this Pokemon used in Let's Go. But I will say that it's probably... I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna look it up. What the hell does this do? I know what it does, but I just want to know what speed tiering. I'm gonna look it up. Maybe someone's a Farfetch'd connoisseur, unlike me. I'm thinking it has like a base 90 speed, but you know, I gotta check. I gotta do it. Let's see. Farfetch'd, what we got? 60! Oh, it's so slow! It's a bird, though. Yeah, so this Pokemon has a 60 base speed and a 90 base attack. So, again, you're just going to want to play into that attack stat even more and just go Adamant on this thing. Has to be Adamant. It's a physical attacker, whether we like it or not. And it's so slow. I didn't know that. I should use a 2-1 Farfetch'd. That'd be hilarious. But, yeah. Adamant, that's your nature. Have a good one. After that, we got Dodrio, and Dodrio is a base 110. It's another base 110 speed Pokemon. It's pretty fast, and so you want to continue to play into that. Jolly is the best nature for this. It gets physical moves like Drill Peck, Jump Kick, Swords Dance. All great moves. Totally work in it being a Jolly nature Pokemon, and I think it's amazing. Dugong. Dugong's not that fast, and it's not that strong. So Dugong's a bit of a wall. It gets a bunch of really niche moves, especially for doubles that you wouldn't really expect, like Encore, Fake Out, stuff like that. So I actually think that Dugong should be a calm nature. If we think about what most of Dugong's weaknesses are, it's a water ice, so it has like a ton. But I think most of its common weaknesses, obviously, it has weaknesses like rocks and fighting. But more often than not, it has weaknesses like electric and grass and stuff like that. Those are more common than rocks more often than not. So I think you want to play into that weakness on that side. And also remember, like I said, most Pokemon in this game that are sweepers are special attackers. So I think you want to go Calm, then Bold, and then Modest for Dugong natures. And maybe there's some more Articuno experts. Sorry, not Articuno. Dugong experts in the chat. I don't know why I compared it to Articuno, but maybe just because it's a nice type. Yeah, I think Calm's probably the best. You go with Calm, you're going to be great. So we got Muck and Alolan Muck, respectively. We're not even really going to talk about a regular Muck, because Alolan Muck is so good, being Psychic Dark type. And I think the best nature for this thing's actually Careful, because sure, you could go Impish to mitigate your damage from Earthquake, but you want to switch in on a special attack. This Pokemon has great specialty. You want to switch in on Thunderbolts. You want to switch in on Shadow Balls. You want to switch in on Flamethrowers, switch in on Scalds and stuff like that, and mitigate as much damage as possible. And to do that, you know, you got to have high base specialty. So preferably, I would say Careful, Impish, and then if you have to go some other one, Adamant. And again, like I've seen a lot of people use like mix sets on this thing. You really don't need like any reductions. Like I've seen people use Adamant Muck and use Fire Blast and Mega Drain and still get the KOs on things like Parasect and Rhydon and stuff like that. I don't think they need like a Naive or any weird nature to still get that off. But yeah, I think Careful is probably the best one. Boosting your specialty as much as possible is really, really nice. We're talking about Cloyster next. Cloyster. Let me just make sure before I give you guys incorrect information. I'm doing my best to give you guys the most correct information. I don't want to make any mistakes. Cloyster, I'm pretty sure it's base 70, right? Yep, cool, 70. So again, it's base 170. It's a Shell Smash user. So when you use Shell Smash, it doubles your special attack, your speed, and your attack stat. So because you're 70, you're going to go to 140, which is going to let you outspeed things like Mega Gengar, Aerodactyl, who are base 130. It's going to let you speed tie things like Mewtwo. You're already outspeeding regular Mewtwo, and so you have to be either timid or jolly to do that, and I would highly recommend being jolly. I think, actually, I'll recommend timid. Timid is the better moveset. Gets like Stabbed Ice Beam, Stabbed Surf. You know, that totally works. I've also seen people use like a hasty Cloyster, because like again, your defense is so high that you can actually sacrifice a bit of it and still be fine, but you need all of your specialties. So actually, yeah, hasty Cloyster, hasty, timid, and then jolly. Those are my natures of choice. Like, take them or leave them, that's what I say. It's the best nature for it. Gengar Pokemon I've talked about a lot, but haven't really got to yet. It's a special attacker, base 110. It can go Mega, so it's base 110 regular, base 130 speed Mega. You have to be timid. Otherwise you'll automatically lose to like base 100s. You'll be getting outsped by like Charizards. No one wants to get outsped by a Charizard with their Gengar. That would just be sad. And, you know, you have to be able to at least speed tie things like Mewtwo. Like, when you're fighting against a regular Mewtwo, or like an Alakazam, and you're Mega Gengar, if you're not timid, you just automatically go last. And that's an automatic loss. You gotta have the speed that you need to succeed. This thing has to be timid. Onix. This Pokemon actually is not that great. A lot of people think Onix is so good. If you look at its stats, it's really not that great. Believe it or not, with the Onix, you kind of want to be impish. You get one-shotted from like any special attack that's super effective. And you're so weak, I only think it has like a 55 base. I'm completely guessing. I'm guessing it's a 55 base attack. We're going to look it up. I'm going to say 55. And you'd be thinking like, Onix, no, it has so much more. I think it's 55. 45! Why are you so weak? Why is it so weak? It is just so weak. I thought I was underplaying it. This Pokemon is so weak. Hold on. It's 45 base attack. I want to see something. Bruh, Onix has less attack. 2 Onixes are still weaker than a regular Dugtrio. That's how weak it is. You just think about that. I'm pretty sure it was tweaked like that because Onix had to be the first Geometer's Pokemon. But Dugtrio's weak as shit too. Like, Dugtrio doesn't even KO stuff if it's super effective half the time. Like, Rock Slide from Dugtrio doesn't one-shot a Charizard. A Rock Slide from an Onix wouldn't one-shot a Charizard either, and it stabs it. Like, Onix is so weak, holy moly. So I think you want to play this thing as defensively as possible. It'd be like a Stealth Rock's Toxic Stall user. I'm just blown away by how weak it is. And you're going to want to go Impish, because you want to play into the one stat that it has that isn't terrible. I think it's like a 160 base defense. It's pretty good, but man, holy moly, that is weak. I didn't think it was. I'm blown away. I learn something new every day. So up next is going to be Hypno. This thing is awkward, but I think the best nature for this is it has a pretty high base specialty that a lot of people don't really take into account. And if you think about what's super effective in Hypno, like, well, other than bug attacks, we're talking most likely about like Dark and Ghost. So like, if they're not stabbing their Shadow Ball, or even if they're Shadow Balling, if you're a special defense boosted nature, like Calm, for example, you're gonna be able to tank like 3 Shadow Balls from things that, even if it's super effective against you, unless they stab it, they're going to have to 3-shot you. And you're just going to be able to set up on them and grind them out. So you got to be calm for Hypno, in my personal opinion. I've seen people use Modest. I've seen people use Bold. I just think Calm is just the best nature for this guy. I've used it throughout the years, and it has just had great success. So after this, we talk about my boy Kingler. Kingler, we're going to make sure what his exact speed is before I give you guys incorrect information. I'm pretty sure I know what it is, but I just want to make sure. Yeah, Kingler has a base 75 base speed. And so, if you are using Kingler, if you want to be a Jolly Nature, for example, you know, you can leave just like an Aerodactyl. First turn, they'll set up rocks. You'll use Agility on them, and then just outspeed them, because you'll be going up to a 150 base speed. You'd even be speed tying against a Mega Aerodactyl, and even if you're Jolly Natured, you're still going to be able to one-shot them with Crab Hammer, because Kingler is so strong. Crab Hammer is a 100 base move. It's so good. It's exclusive to Kingler in this game. And you go Adamant if you want to deal an extra little bit of damage, but I do highly recommend the Jolly sets. It's so good, especially if you're using Agility. If you're not using Agility, go ahead, use Adamant. It's great. Great. Finally, we're on to one of my favorite Pokemon. We got Electrode on deck. You gotta be timid. This thing is a special attacker. You're not using you're not using Explosion. You're not using Self-Destruct. Don't do that. That's bad. This thing uses special attacks like Thunderbolt and Thunder, and it has to be speed natured. It has 150 base speed. You have a guaranteed taunt, guaranteed screen of your choice, guaranteed Thunder Wave on almost any Pokemon in the game. It's so good. And so I highly recommend Timid Nature on this thing. Man, this list is taking me forever. I am exhausted. Holy moly. Alright, we're going to be moving on to Executor and Alolan Executor. We're going to talk about Kanto Executor first. I really think the best nature for this thing is going to be Modest. It is Grass Psychic, and so that's really, really good offensive typing. Mega Drain does so much damage, you'd be surprised, and Psychic does even more. Modest is by far and away the best nature on this thing, and you're going to be surprised how hard it hits. Alolan Executor, on the other hand, can be physical or special. You saw my top 5 grass video. I talked about physical Alolan Executor, but it also has the same type of grass moveset that this one has. For the physical one, you want to be adamant. For the special one, you want to be modest. It's not that hard. Hopefully you pick one of them, and both of them definitely work. So after that, we're going to be going on to Marowak, pretty much a defensive physical wall, very similar to Sandslash, but I think with Marowak, to get the KOs on things that you actually need, you actually have to be adamant. It's unfortunate, but it doesn't have, like, enough attack, and there's no, like, Thick Club in this game, so, like, it has a pretty low base attack, and so even if you're using, like, super effective moves that you stab, like Earthquake, to KO a lot of things with Earthquake, you do have to still go adamant. So I would say adamant's best. Other than that, you go adamant, impish, and then careful in that order. And then for a Alolan Marowak, I'd say like the exact same thing. But again, I haven't actually looked up that many calcs for a Alolan Marowak, so it could go either way. But still, I think adamant's the best on both of them. And for the Alolan Marowak, you get that Flare Blitz. That's pretty good. So we're talking about Hitmonlee. Hitmonlee, I think Adamant is probably best. I've seen a lot of people use Jolly, but I really do think Adamant is the best on this thing. You're just going to get the more bang for your buck, and again, it's not like super fast, so Adamant totally works, but both are great. We're going to talk about Hitmonchan next. Hitmonchan, I talked about him in the same video. I think Adamant is the best on Hitmonchan as well, but I also think there's a thing to be said about using like Impish and Careful Natures, because it is kind of bulky. If you wanted to play for like a Hitmonchan set that uses all of the elemental punches to either like paralyze your opponent or freeze him or burn him, you'd want to spec into one of those defensive natures, be it Impish or Careful. So I would say my Hitmonchan tier list would be like Adamant, Impish, because that's one that I use. I think Impish is great on switching in on like Earthquakes and stuff, and then Careful, that's my choice. So Lickitung. This thing gets some pretty weird movesets. You'd be surprised the amount of moves this thing can learn. It can learn, like, Thrash and Power Whip. Those are two 120-based physical moves. And, like, I'm pretty sure it gets, like, Earthquake and stuff. But it also gets, like, a bunch of special attacks. Like Flamethrower and Thunderbolt and stuff like that. Let me look up Lickitung so I can give you guys the perfect nature. Because it's a pretty unique Pokemon. I've been waiting to use it for a while. Lickitung. Lickitung. Yeah, Lickitung's kind of weird. I bet none of you guys have ever seen it be used in, like, Let's Go games. So, yeah, so Lickitung has base 55 attack, base 60 special attack. Well, if you're going to use an attacking nature one, obviously it only has a 30 base speed, so you don't want to go speed-natured. I would say you'd go Adamant if you want to use an attacking one, and if you really want to go with the modest one, you can go for special attacks. But it also can benefit, I guess, from, like, Impish Bold or, like, Calm Careful natures. So any nature pretty much works in this thing, depending on how you want to play it. It's a cool Pokemon. It gets a bunch of really unique moves, but it unfortunately just doesn't have the type of stats to really back up the type of play style that it needs to succeed. Talking about Weezing next. I think Weezing is such a cool Pokemon, and I actually think the best nature for Weezing is Bold. Bold nature Weezing is my choice here. Weezing gets a bunch of really cool moves. It's more often than not a special attacker. It gets moves like Sludge Bomb, Dark Pulse, Flamethrower, Thunderbolt. Bet you didn't know it got those moves. But unfortunately, it's a little bit too weak to actually get like big KOs with them. And so you're better off going for like Will-O-Wisps or Toxics, kind of like walling people out and being able to like maximize your time stayed on the board to use like Protects and Subs. So you could go Calm, but again, you would just get one-shotted by any special attack. Your special defense is so low, there's no point in even trying to salvage it at all. Like, you will die to, like, not even super effective special attacks. It's not worth saving. But with the defense, you have a relatively high base defense stat, and you can use Will-O-Wisp, so I do actually recommend speccing into that. Other natures, like I said, though, are modest. I've used a modest Weezing at regionals before, and gotten some pretty clean games. It's actually pretty hilarious. So I would say Bold, then Modest, and then Calm if you had to pick respectively. Rhydon. Rhydon has a few really good natures. I think personally Adamant is the best. You cannot go wrong with Adamant, but I've seen a lot of people using Jolly Rhydon, because Jolly Rhydon lets you outspeed Alolan Muck and a couple other weird Pokemon. So Jolly Rhydon outspeeds the other Rhydon. Like, I've been bodied by Jolly Rhydon on, like, 4 occasions over the past week. And I know it's Jolly based off the Pokemon that I'm using. So, like, don't sleep on Jolly Rhydon. And then the last one is Impish. And Impish is going to let you eat Earthquakes so much easier. There's so many Pokemon who have just enough stats to, like, alright, I know this one-shot's Adamant Rhydon with Earthquake. And when you don't one-shot them with Earthquake and they fire back, like, the biggest Earthquake back in your face, you aren't ready for it. So, yeah, I would say best natures are Adamant, then Jolly, and then Impish. If you really want to go careful, it's not terrible, but that's my choice. Up next, we got Chancy. Remember, there's no Eevee in this game. So, like, Chancy can't evolve into Blissey. There's no ways to really increase its stats. I think the best nature for Chancy in this game is going to be something like Calm. It's going to make your special defense, which is already pretty good, so much better. And you just got to try your best to never eat a physical attack ever. Even if you were to go bold on this thing to increase your defense, it's probably not going to save you all that much. Its second best nature is going to be bold, but more often than not, Calm's going to be your best. And the reason why we're going Calm and bold is because, like, Chancy does have a decent special attack base. It's better than its attack stat, and it learns some pretty good special attacks like Ice Beam and Flamethrower. So Calm, Bold, those are your best natures. Moving on to Tangela, it's a very similar boat, but it's like the exact opposite. Like, Tangela has a really low base special defense, but a very high base defense, so you're going to want to play into that. This plays similar to like a Parasect or Subseeder Pokemon. You're going to want to go Bold, it's going to be the best nature on this thing, and other than that, your other best nature is going to be Calm. It's too slow to use something like Timid, and like I said, it's a special attacker, so Bold and Calm are your best natures on Tangela. After that, you have Kangaskhan. Now, I was using Kangaskhan earlier today in one of today's streams, actually, and I use an Adamant Kangaskhan. Especially when you Omega, this thing hits like an absolute truck. You don't have Parental Bond anymore, and that's why I want to go Adamant, so I can still KO things. Like, if you're not Adamant, you risk, like, not KOing Gengar with, like, Crunch or Sucker Punch. Do you know how bad that is? You have to be able to KO that Pokemon. Like, that alone is a reason enough to use Crunch. That alone is a reason enough to use Adamant over anything else, in my opinion. But to remember, when you go Mega Kangaskhan, you get a bunch more bulk, and you get a lot more speed. You go up to base 100 speed. Right. Someone just followed the channel, but that's right, you know. That's right, Synapse CSGO. That's right, my guy. You get a bunch more speed, you go to base 100. So, like, people really like using Jolly on Kangaskhan as well. But also, like I said, you get a lot of bulk. Kangaskhan's inherently a really bulky Pokemon, so you can also benefit from, like, Impish and Careful Nature. So my tier list for Kangaskhan speed tierings, or not speed tiering, just natures, are going to be Adamant, Jolly, Careful, and then Impish. So any of those definitely work. And I'm probably going to be leaving like a list in like the description or on my Discord. I'll probably pin it on the Discord of all my preferred natures in like text form in case anyone wants to go back and look at it. Moving on, we got Seadra. Seadra's not that fast. Seadra's not that strong. It's not that great. I would really recommend the only nature for this Pokemon is Modest, because if it's not Modest, it's not picking up any KOs, and it has a better special attack than attack. It learns better special move pool than has physical move pool, and like I said, you're really not going to benefit from Timid. You're still going to get one-shotted by pretty much everything on both sides, even if you're Bold or Calm, so Modest is the only nature I see being used for this thing. Seaking's an enigma. I'm going to look up Seaking. Seaking, what nature should I make you? I'm seeking Eevee spreads. Alright, Seaking's terrible, holy moly. The best nature for Seaking is Adamant, unfortunately. It has a 68 base speed and a 92 base attack, so again, it's not really terrible. There's a few physical attacks that it can get. I'm pretty sure it gets like Waterfall and stuff like that, and so Seaking's not great, but the best nature for it is going to be Adamant. So if you want to use Seaking, Adamant's the best nature for you. Starmie. We're finally getting into the real Pokemon, right? We're finally getting into the good stuff. So Starmie, the best nature for Starmie is Timid. Of course it's Timid. It's a special attacker. It's fast. You gotta be timid. You gotta go first. But, this is the first example of a situation where I personally use this. Every Starmie you've seen me use in every single one of my videos is Modest. And that is because 99% of the time, no one is going to fight the Starmie, because Starmie's been like in the upper echelon of used Pokemon since its release back in the day, because it's so fast, it has such a good move pool, great offensive and defensive typing, and so every time that it's ever been used, everyone expects it to be Timid. So you can actually go Modest, and there's a few rolls you can get. You know, a lot of times, like, you'll two-shot a Mega Slowbro with Thunderbolt if you're Modest. You know, you'll one-shot a Mega Venusaur Stealth Rocks if you're Modest. So there's a few situations in which Modest Starmie is so good that Timid Starmie just doesn't keep up. Now, Modest Starmie gets outsped by base 110 Pokemon. If they have a Gengar and you have a Starmie, well, they can just Shadow Ball you and you'll die. But they've been ingrained so deep in their soul to not fight the Starmies, because Starmie can just Psychic you. And I have I'm supposed to be 120. I'm supposed to be able to outspeed you. But they know. Actually, is Starmie 120 or is it 115? I want to make sure. I think it's 115, actually. I think it was incorrect. Yeah, Starmie's 115. So they know that you're supposed to outspeed him. But you're going to be able to get away with it every time. I swear, I promise you. Go Modest. It's the best thing. It's the best. It's so good. Modest is amazing on Starmie. I've never regretted going Modest on Starmie in any format I've ever used it in. I've always been Modest. It's amazing. I've never wanted to be timid, and I'm like, man, if only I was timid. Nope, modest works for me. Mr. Mime is a really good typing, like very psychic. That's really underrated. You know, think about psychic's weaknesses. You got dark, and you got bug. You got ghost. So other than ghost, you know, it being a fairy type pretty much makes the other two types, you know, bug and dark, be nullified. And so you want to play to that. You want to use this thing kind of like a physical wall. I think the best nature for Mr. Mime is bold. If you really want to go into calm, you can, but that's it. He's a wall. He doesn't really deal damage. He's kind of like a weird Pokemon. He's like a wall, but like a weird one. So bold is the best nature for this Pokemon, in my opinion. But again, that's just my opinion. After that, we got Scyther. Scyther being one of the only Pokemon in the game that gets that big stab U-turn, and it's one of the best at it. It also gets moves like Swords Dance and stuff like that, but again, it's not like super fast. Jolly's probably the best, and let me just make sure. Scyther. I think Adamant's the best. We're just gonna check. Oh, it's 105. No, I'm just kidding. It's 105. So yeah, it's good. You have to be Jolly. If it's over base 100, you gotta be Jolly. In my opinion, it's a physical attacker, so Jolly's best, then Adamant. I actually thought Scyther was base 97 for some reason, for like the longest time. You learn something new every day. So yeah, Jolly, best nature, then Adamant. Jinx after that. Jinx is base 95, so it's actually not that slow. Not as slow as people think, so you want to go timid with this thing. This thing gets sleep-inducing moves, psychics, ice beams, you can get setup moves. Great Pokemon. You have to be timid. It's a special attacker. Gotta get that speed. I think Jinx is amazing, and we're gonna be using it a lot of the channel relatively soon. You know, once like I get my weeks worth of videos pumped out. After that, you have Electabuzz, and Electabuzz, let's make sure that this Pokemon isn't as slow as I think it is too. Electabuzz is 105 as well. Yep, Electabuzz is just fast enough to where, you know, you really want to be either timid or Jolly, based on if you want to be physical or special. Now, I really do recommend a special move set. It gets access to moves like Thunderbolt, but it also gets access to moves like Psychic. It's very similar. It's like a poor man's Alolan Raichu. It's just a little bit slower, it's just a little bit weaker, and it doesn't stab the Psychic, but it gets access to moves like Taunt. That's what it is. They both get Thunder Wave, but this guy actually has room for it on his moveset. So, poor man's Alolan Raichu. Gotta be timid or Jolly with this thing. 105 is an amazing speed tiering, and there's not enough Pokemon that have it, but it is good when you see it. Magmar. Magmar's not great. Magmar, I would say modest. It doesn't really get that many good moves, though. So, Magmar's not great, and it's not really bulky enough to benefit from, like, Bold or Calm either. So, I'd really recommend Modest on this thing. It's pretty good nature, but, unfortunately, the Pokemon itself isn't that great. We're talking about Pincer and Mega Pincer, potentially. Mega Pincer actually has a pretty decent speed tiering. So, again, because its base speed tiering is over 100, you're going to want to go Jolly on this thing. Jolly, because it's a physical attacker, and if you want to go Adamant, you can, but I don't recommend it. I really do recommend the Jolly nature on this thing. What a great Pokemon. We're going to use it in some videos. I know you guys have been asking for it for a long time. After that, we're moving on to Tauros. Tauros is a base 110 speed Pokemon. Because it's 110, tying things like Gengar, Raichu, Dodrio, a bunch of those things like that, you're going to want to go speed natured. Jolly is the nature for this thing. Again, if you really want to go Adamant, you can, but you risk losing yourself to a lot of other Pokemon that have like the same type of speed tiering. You know, an Earthquake or a Double Edge from a Tauros is enough to KO so many Pokemon after Rock's damage. You know, this thing gets Double Edge, Rock Slide, Earthquake, such good coverage, and it hits like a truck, even with Jolly nature, so I really recommend you guys try Tauros if you haven't yet. After Stealth Rock's damage, this thing can one-shot so many Pokemon. After that, we got Gyarados. Now, everyone knows that Gyarados and Mega Gyarados, respectively, should be Adamant in this game, because they don't have Dragon Dance. You used to be Jolly, because if you got one Dragon Dance off, you'd be higher base speed than 130 Pokemon, like Aerodactyl, like Jolteon, and stuff like that. So, it used to be you had to go Jolly, because you can get a speed boost. Now that you can't get a speed boost, you can just go Adamant, it's fine. But, every Gyarados you've ever seen me use on this channel is Jolly. Has my Gyarados ever once let me down? The answer is no. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Also, it's come to it a couple times where I have my Gyarados versus their Gyarados, and I'm like, I'm gonna win. What's he gonna do? I go first every time. I'm the one dictating the pace. I get to attack first. I'm gonna have a free turn at the very end of the day over him. Like if let's say we're both at full, I get to hit with 5 waterfalls. He gets to hit with like 3. I go 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2. You're probably dead. You have to hit with like 3. If for some reason you get hit with 4, well, I got the 5th one, and I'm going to grind you out. And also, I'm the one that has the chance to flinch you with all of these waterfalls. or get the defense drop with the crunch. I get the chance to do that first. So I really do recommend Jolly. I really do recommend Jolly because it doesn't hurt anything to do it, because you still get the big KOs like you would with Adamant. And I don't have a problem with that at all. Great Pokemon. I also think people use Careful. So I'd say Jolly, Adamant, Careful is my personal tier list, but 99% of the player of the base is just going to click Adamant because they don't want to take the time to experiment. Lapras. I think this Pokemon is best made calm. I would say Calm, Bold, Modest in that order because it's very similar to Wigglytuff, except for it already has enough base special attack. It has a really good special move pool, but it doesn't really need the Modest to actually get any KOs because it's going to be 2-hit KOing everything. So the Modest would kind of be wasted. So that's why I really want to say you want to make it like Calm to boost its special defense even higher, and same goes for the defense with Bold. So Calm, Bold, and then Modest. Ditto. That's a unique pick. I didn't even think about that. You've never had to think about Ditto's nature before, because Ditto used to have the ability which would automatically transform it. But now that you have to think about what you're transforming into, I guess technically Jolly is the best nature. And the reason Jolly's better than Timid, first of all, you want to use Speed Nature so you can transform as fast as possible. Maybe you're faster than something. You know, and I think it's a better role than going for, like, hoping to eat an attack. You know, hoping to live through an attack and using Transform. I think it's better off just try and transform on something like a Slowbro or like a Parasect or something. But, yeah, the reason I think you want to go Jolly over Timid is because you take less damage from Foul Play. Remember, Foul Play is based off your own attack stat. And that's it. That's the reason why you go Jolly on Ditto. We're going to be talking about Partner Eevee next. And I think the best nature for Partner Eevee is also Jolly as well. Now, I've seen people talk about, like, Hasty, because Eevee gets, like, special attacking moves and physical attacking moves. But if you look at the moves people are using, they're most likely 2 or 3 physical moves, and then, like, 1 special attacking move that just has, like, a really, really good secondary effect. Like, you know, what's the... It's either Sappy Seed or the Sizzly Slide. Like, one of those moves, like, or, like, the heal one or whatever, it's a special attack. But it's not important. So, a lot of people... I actually would recommend Jolly for Eevee. And, you know, just get that speed you need to succeed without sacrificing any of your defenses, because what you're doing is you're effectively neutering your opponent's Pokemon, but every once in a while they're still going to be able to attack, or at least attack for reduced damage, so you want to be able to bulk it out as much as possible. So, Eevee, I highly recommend Jolly for that Partner Eevee. Vaporeon, oh my gosh, the end's in sight. I'm, like, tired. This is taking forever. But I'm never going to have to tell anyone what natures are ever again. I can just say, like, watch the video. Watch the video. Okay. Alright, here we go. Vaporeon. I think Vaporeon's best Bold because, unlike a lot of other Pokemon where I'm like, yeah, your weaknesses are all special attacks. It is, but Vaporeon's just so thick on the special defense side, and it's just pure water typing, so it's not hard to, like, include Pokemon types that just resist electric or water. It's not like a water something, like a lot of these other Pokemon are like Lapras. Like, it can just come in and just be like, hey, I'm, like, extra thick on the special defense side, and I have a ton of HP. Oh, you're using Thunderbolt? Like, I care. You know, that's what Vaporeon says. It also gets access to, like, Rest and Acid Armor, and so you're gonna play it, like, Bold, and then increase your defense even more exponentially, and just make it, like, unkillable by things. Such a good Pokemon, very underrated. I plan on using it in the future. Jolteon. Oh, other natures for Vaporeon, though. I got Bold, and then Calm, and then Modest in that order. So Jolteon, you got Timid. You gotta be Timid. It's base 130. You gotta be able to at least speed tie things like Aerodactyl, at least speed tie things like Mega Gengar, at least speed tie the Mewtwo. If you're not Timid, they just get to go first, and you can't have that. Even though Modest seems really, really appealing, being able to, like, one-shot a lot of things, you just gotta go Timid. You gotta sacrifice some of that damage for that speed, because you gotta have it to succeed. Flareon's not that fast, but it has a really high base attack stat. I'm pretty sure it's like a 130. Let me look it up. I want to know. I want to know if I'm right. I'm going to say it's 130. Let's see if I play this game, guys. Knowing those Flareon damage totals. That's what I'm talking about. It's 130. All right. So, there we go. Actually, it's kind of weird. I'm talking about, like, base stats a lot. I actually know a lot more Pokemon stats at level 100. It wasn't until, like, Gen 6 that I actually had to, like, take a step back, because I was like, yeah, I know Flareon. If it's Adamant at level 100, it gets 394. And I knew the 394 number. I had to go back and, like, relearn base stats. Just because it's easier to explain it to people. Even though they're both the same number, technically, if they're used in the correct ways, you know. it's easier to explain to people for base stats. So 130 on Flareon's attack stat, which means you're going to want to go Adamant. It gets a bunch of really cool moves. So, it's like a poor man's Arcanine, but it gets like a big Flare Blitz. And I really do want to use Flareon. I think it's a really cool Pokemon. And I plan on using it sometime in the future. I just need to get like an Adamant Eevee to make it into a Flareon. It's a pretty cool Pokemon. Porygon. Not that great in this game. No Eeveeolite, no evolutions or anything like that. So I think the best nature for this thing, its only weakness is fighting. So probably Bold. You might be able to eat one attack. Just maybe. I would say Bold, Calm, and then Modest. It doesn't really need Timid. It's not really that fast. But probably Bold's your best bet. But again, almost any nature is going to work on this thing because it's not going to do that much even if you have the best nature possible. Ammonite and Omastar. So Omastar is very similar to Cloyster. It's another Shell Smash user, but you gotta be Timid nature with this one. It can't really be a mixed attacker as well as Cloyster can. I just want to make sure I get my Omastar calcs right. Omastar, I'm pretty sure it's 70 as well. 55, just kidding. It's 55. So yeah, I was incorrect. You have to be modest on Omastar. Why did I say timid? No, it's modest. You got to be modest, and you got to have a +4 Omastar can OHKO Mewtwo with Surf, but a +4 Omastar cannot OHKO a Mewtwo with Scald. So actually, it's a lot weaker than Cloyster in regards to like its speed being so much lower. But at the end of the day, it has, I think, better typing, just a little bit, just by a little bit. It has like a 4 times weakness to Grass, but it doesn't have that big weakness to like Rock. And I think that's really, really big. So I actually think you gotta be modest on Omastar. I would say modest, then something like Bold, then something like Calm, then Timid, actually. Because you're so slow. I didn't even know you were that slow. You're gonna need to double Shell Smash more often than not. And I have a team coming out that actually shows Omastar playing to its fullest potential pretty soon. So after that, you have the other fossil Pokemon. You got Kabutops. I actually think I personally run a Jolly one, but that's exclusively for doubles. It's for a different reason. The reason why I have a Jolly one is because I want to be faster than something like a base 100 speed Pokemon like Zapdos, and so my Kabutops can actually go faster than my Zapdos, and I can go like Rock Slide, and then Zapdos can target whoever it wants, instead of Zapdos having to target one thing to KO with Thunderbolt. Like I can attack with Kabutops first, so like that's scenarios in doubles in which like your natures really do matter. But more often than not, you're just going to go Adamant with Kabutops. Gets a pretty decent base attack stat. You get moves like Aqua Jet, which is just going to make it so you don't even need speed. You just got that Aqua Jet priority. Gets Waterfall, Leech Life, Rock Slide. Great move pool, great Pokemon. Adamant's the nature to go, but we're going to talk about Jolly as our second best nature. And we're moving on to Aerodactyl. You got to be Jolly. I will not bend on this. You have to be Jolly. This thing, it's so important. 130 base. I've listed this for like every single Pokemon. Like, this thing is so important. You gotta be Jolly. And you maybe, if you say, but I can go Adamant and go Mega, well, then you get outsped by like Alakazams and other things. You want to be Jolly, so when you go Mega, you know you can outspeed the things like Mega Mewtwo that are 140. Like, you know, you have to keep up that speed. That's the reason my Aerodactyl is so good. It's not because it has really good typing. It's not because it's so strong. It's because it's so fast. It's so fast. It can set up the rocks before anything can taunt it. It can set up the rocks before anything can do anything about it. It can taunt before most things can do anything about it. And gotta have that speed. Gotta have that speed. Talking about Snorlax has a few different movesets, but it's pretty good. It has a really high base specialty, pretty high base attack, very high base HP, but very low defense. So I actually think as long as you don't plan on eating physical attacks, a careful one's good. You play it very similar to a Alolan Muck. Switching on a special attack, you know, set up a little bit, maybe go for like body slams and stuff. So I would say my nature of choice on Snorlax are probably going to be careful, impish, and then adamant. I actually don't think you need the adamant on this thing at all, because you're just going to be able to like, you know, you're either toxic stalling them or you're fishing for like body slam paras, and then you're just gonna try and wall them out with like rest. And so you don't really need damage to do that. You're not picking up huge KOs. You're not one-shotting people with Snorlax. You're gonna like 2 or 3 shot them, and you don't need any attack to really differentiate that damage amount. So I would say careful, impish, and then adamant, but that's just my opinion. We're talking about Articuno next. You guys have seen me use this in videos before. I actually think that Bold nature is the best nature to have in Articuno, just because you actually can eat a couple Rock Slides from a few niche Pokemon if you're Bold. And it also applies to like a lot of physical attacks. Like Articuno can eat a couple fighting attacks from things like Machamp if you're Bold. I know it's neutral. There's a lot of physical attacks that if you're Bold nature, you do get you do get to live. And also there's a couple like really niche ones. And if you're Bold, they won't deal like 25% through your sub because your defense is raised so much. So Bold is my recommendation. But I've also seen people use Modest. I've also seen people use Timid. I've also seen people use Calm. All those natures are good, but I preferably recommend Bold. Zapdos. Zapdos is a really cool Pokemon. I actually think Timid is the best nature just because people got to have that speed. It's base 100. That's the rules. I don't make them. Got to be timid by most people's standards. I actually like a calm Zapdos. Being able to like sit and just wall out a lot of Pokemon is so important to me. And the reason I want to be timid, the reason why I want to be calm is because, like I said, more often than not, we're going to see a lot of special attackers being, special. I'm just losing my words. This video is so long. More often than not, most sweepers are special attackers. So calm's better than calm's better than bold in this situation. Also note that like bold Pokemon, so like Earthquake, that's physical attack. Fighting attack, those are physical. You already are immune or resist those types. The only scenario which bold is okay is if you're fighting something that's using like Rock Slide, and as long as you're not fighting aerodactyls, that's fine, but you also don't need to be bold to eat a Rock Slide. So you can just eat the Rock Slide, be fine, just Thunderbolt them and you're good. So I actually think my nature preferably is going to be calm, timid, modest, bold. That's my set for Zapdos. Moving on to Moltres. Moltres has two options. You can either go modest and be able to KO things like Melmetal with Flamethrower, and that's awesome. That's really cool, but you gotta be modest to do that. Or you can go timid and use Fire Blast. And Timid isn't really going to get you that much more. It's going to let you outspeed a few things. It has a decent base speed, but you need Fire Blast then to KO things like Melmetal. So I actually prefer Modest on this thing, because that way you don't have to risk missing the Flamethrower. But I also recommend you still pack Fire Blast on your Moltres, because it's going to let you one-shot a lot of Pokemon that have relatively low Special D. Like example, like I've one-shotted a Sandslash before with Fire Blast from a Moltres, and that's hilarious. Like, that's just hilarious. So being able to one-shot things is pretty good. I'd say Modest and then Timid for my choices. Dragonite's a bit of a weird Pokemon in that it can be a physical attacker, it can be a special attacker, but there's also like a lot of people using like agility sets. So a lot of people would say like Adamant's really good, and then I've seen people say like Jolly's really good, but it's also really good to be like a special attacker. So if you want to be like a mixed attacker, I'd recommend Hasty, because again, it's very similar to Zapdos. Like on the defensive side, things like ground and fighting attacks, you nullify or resist those moves already, and you can just eat a Rock Slide from something like Aerodactyl, no problem. So Hasty if you want to be a mixed attacker, but Jolly if you want to be like anything else. So you can use an agility and then like outspeed sweep everything. But Adamant's really good, and you actually pick up a lot of KOs with Outrage. You'd be surprised. Like something like Alakazam after Rocks damage gets like one-shotted from Outrage from Dragonite. It's an absolute monster. This thing hits like a freaking truck. So I would say my nature of choice are probably going to be Jolly, Adamant, and then Hasty. So Mewtwo, I don't use Mewtwo. I don't use Ubers. But I do know that the best nature for Mewtwo, if you're going Mewtwo Y at least, is going to be Timid. And if you're not using Mewtwo Y, I would say the best nature on Mewtwo is probably going to be Naive, because you want to be able to mix Sweeper, go like Mewtwo X potentially, or Mega Mewtwo Y. So like if you had like a moveset like Psychic Shadow Ball, like Calm Mind with like Earthquake, just in case they have Mega Muck and you need to go like Mewtwo X, that totally works. If you're going Mewtwo Y, you want to be Timid. If you're going mixed, you want to be Naive. And if you're going Mewtwo X, you're going to be Jolly, because Mewtwo X doesn't actually gain any speed. It's going to stay base 130. And so you still need to keep that 130 base. You don't want to be any slower. And so I recommend being Jolly for that one. But again, we don't use Mewtwo. We don't condone the use of Mewtwo here. But again, it's in the Pokedex, and I can't title a video like best natures for every Pokemon without including it. Mew can be so many natures, but you only get to soft reset it. You don't even get to soft reset. You get whatever nature the Pokeball gives you, and that's scary. But more often than not, since it can run every TM, it's going to use moves like, Stealth Rocks, Thunder Wave, Roost. A lot of people like to play Mew really defensively, and it has base 100s across the board. That's its stats. So a lot of people really like using Calm Mews and Bold Mews, but the best Mew natures are actually speed natures. So like any speed nature you have on Mew is good, because you're going to be able to taunt anything. No setup moves, no rocks from anything slower than you, no substitutes or anything like that. Like base 100 taunt is so good. It's so underrated in my opinion. So I really recommend something like Timid, Jolly, maybe like Naive, something like that. All those plus speed natures work on Mew. I actually think Mew's a little bit better as a special attacker, using like Psychic Shadow Ball. I think that's really good coverage. But again, if you're physical, you can go like U-turn Earthquake. So again, those both have their options. Mew can do so many things, but any plus speed nature on Mew is going to be really good. Unfortunately, my Mew is Quiet, which is a minus speed nature. But again, it boosts my special attack, so it's not even that terrible. You take what you get, and you don't throw a fit. Melmetal. I've never used one of these things, and I've beaten every single person that like has used one against me. But I think that you have to go Adamant. I think it has a really low specialty. And even if you put the points in special, you can go like careful. I don't think it lets you live anything important. And again, its attacks like high, but it's not like unbearably high. And so to get the KOs it actually needs with moves that aren't stabbed, like Thunder Punch, for example, and like Earthquake, you actually need to be Adamant. So I've seen Adamant. And that's the list. Holy moly, I wonder how long I've been recording it. I'll know when I finish the video, but that's the whole Pokedex, guys. That's the whole Pokedex. Guys, please, if you got to the very end, let me know what you thought about the video in the comments below, and any one thing I could do to make my content better. I know this one, I sound exhausted. So you're like, hey, you need to have more energy. I probably need to have more energy. But, guys, thank you so much for watching. You can also let me know any other type of videos you want to see me make. I can make as many discussion videos as you would ever want to see, and I have no problem making those type of videos. So I just want to say, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you have a great day, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out.